soon as he sits down, you can start.
Welcome to today's Hinckley Forum. My name is Ashton, and I am a student staff here at the Hinckley Institute. The Hinckley Institute of Politics is a nonpartisan institute at the University of Utah. The Hinckley provides an array of transformative experiences for students through internships, forums, and classes. Hinckley forums seek to foster public discourse and civil debate on the most current and pressing issues, bringing in local, national, and international thought leaders. A quick note that pizza will be served at the end of the event. Today's conversation with Congressman Burgess Owens is the first of the 2024 Sutherland Congressional Series. We want to thank the Sutherland Institute for their leadership and partnership on this event. I will now turn it over to Christine Cook Fairbanks, the Education Policy Fellow at Sutherland Institute, to get us started.
Thank you so much. We're so grateful to have Congressman Owens here with us and to chat about education policy, one of my favorite topics, and his as well. So we have a lot of students here, and maybe some of them have gone back to DC or not, but you're in a unique position to educate us and give us a window in on what's happening in Congress. So give us some insight. What's being talked about in education policy? What are some of the hot topics and debates that we should be aware of?
Okay, thanks so much, Christina. First of all, I appreciate this opportunity. Let me start off by saying education is probably my biggest passion. My little bit of background, I played NFL for 10 years. I've been a business owner, now in Congress. There's nothing more important for me in terms of legacy, in terms of what we do in this arena. Education is a national security issue. We can do everything that we want to in every other area, but if we do not teach our kids to be proud of who they are, to be able to think critical thinking skills, to be able to have conversations where they are being respectful, to be proud of our past and how far we've come, if we can't do that, we will rot from within. So I just want to say that I'm excited about, I never thought this is something I'd ever do. So excited about being part of it at a time where for the first time as a conference, the Republican Party has put education as one of its top priorities. It's budget, China, and education. And it's so timely because now American people are seeing the same thing. After COVID, realizing that something's gone terribly wrong with our kids. Not only are they not being able to think, you're starting to see a trend in which they're getting less and less ability to have critical thinking skills, to be able to communicate with each other. And we have less and less pride of who we are as a nation. You know, we're the nation, the only nation in the history of mankind that started with themes like we're all men are created equal, that we will become a more perfect union, which starts off with the concept that we have to be humble enough to know we're not perfect at that moment, but that we can still be that way. And so we need to make sure that our young people understand all these things so we bring that to the plate as we talk about solutions as we move forward. What we're doing back in DC, very simply, is we're asking those questions. What is the purpose of education? Is to give you guys the ability to dream big, to take risks, to want to leave a legacy, a good name, maybe a business, something your kids can take on and move forward with? Or is it to make sure that adults are very safe in the occupation they're in? That's the choice we have. I believe meritocracy, I believe in the free market. We're now talking about how can we make sure that in this market of education, we're giving our kids the best choice possible. I think we need to change that tune now from instead of choice. Maybe we talk about what is it, learning loss. Maybe that might be the thing that gets us all together. The fact we now know that every child has experienced learning loss to a fact that's going to really impact our country. Now, the ones that get hurt the most are the ones who have the least amount of money and amount of choices out there in the first place. My community. My community is one that in 2017, I want you guys to hear this and understand what the impact of this is for these kids and for you as a society. 2017, a study came out of the state of California that 75% of the black boys in the state of California could not pass standard reading and writing tests. They could not read and write. They would not ever sit like you guys are right now. We have districts in DC, Baltimore, zero proficiency in math. They would never sit in these kind of situations like you are. Not that they're not talented enough to do it, they're not being taught. And here's the two things that concern me about that. Number one, the study came out, and most people yawned and moved on. There's two things. They've been trained to think that this is the way black people are anyway, so what's the big deal? Or they're trained to think, you know what, I feel bad, I really do, but my kids are okay, so I'm gonna move on. Either way does not help our nation. Either way, we lose that sense of empathy. We lose empathy, we lose our culture, my friends. Look back on our history of what Americans have always done when we're going out to fight for freedom for others and come back and build our own communities. It's all about empathy. We lose that. Whatever we do outside of that, it doesn't matter. So, to the question, Christine, I'm going to get to the answer.
Great.
We are now focusing on a few things. We're going to make sure that schools are held accountable. It doesn't matter what the name of the school is, whether it's public, private, whatever it might be. There's one thing those systems are there to do is teach our children. If they are failing, they need to go out of business. If they're succeeding, they need to be able to have the greatest opportunities for wealth. And by the way, I would love to see our institutions, our teaching institutions, get to the point where we respect not only the institutions, but also respect the educators. And how do we do that? Give educators the same thing that every other free market has. You can make as much money as you're willing to go out there and innovatively make and earn. There should be no cap. You should have people coming from the corporate world coming in to teach because that's where their passion is anyway. It's just that up until now they couldn't afford to do it. Let's make it so that is such an industry because that industry will define our future. That industry should be one of those places where you are really good at what you do. If you can look back and see your impact as having intergenerational change and success and confidence, that person should not have a cap. So let's bring education away out of the shadows. Every other place we have in our country, including where I am right now, every school, every fast food, every hotel, there's a reason why we choose that, based on our interests. Our school systems should be the same way. If they produce, if they give us a reason to be there, we will pay them. If they're failing, like those schools in California, that is the worst thing you do to a parent, is they've watched their kids know that they will never ever succeed, that they'll go to jail, they'll get in trouble because they have no hopes. We should never allow that to happen to any group of people, any people, period. So that being said, we're going to address this. Can I just, one other policy I think would be good for you guys to know about. We've been talking about choice for quite a while. Personally, I don't understand anybody who's not for parents giving their kids the best choice possible. I don't get it. I think it's very self-centered, selfish, lack of empathy. I don't know. It's crazy to me that people who have a choice of taking their kids to wherever the best, because they think about it all the time. I want my kid to do this. So they always they'll move to a different location, a different district, because their child wants to have a good education. And yet we have some people who will vote against a child getting their chance for life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And by the way, civil rights should be, education should be a civil rights for every child, period. Doesn't matter what the color is, what the zip code is, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness can only happen if you have the ability to think, to dream, to overcome. So we have something that we now have called the Educational Choice for Children's Act. I'm now I'm on that, one of the lead, and looking at having a conversation about changing that to something that deals with learning loss that everybody can now relate to. This is the way it works. It says that we can put together a scholarship granting organization, SGO, that has no oversight by the Department of Education. The Department of Education cannot put their fingers in and dictate anything. Only thing that has oversight is the IRS. It has to be a nonprofit. It has to do things that nonprofits do. Here's what we can do with that. This is a bill we're putting forth right now, matter of fact, is that corporations and individuals can get 100% tax credit by investing into or donating to this SGO. These SGOs go throughout each state, and they can then offer a choice without taking any money from the local districts, from the state government. They give a choice to any child, any parent, whether it be private, parochial, homeschool, whatever they want to go. And what it does, it says this, without drawing funding from the school districts, people make a decision, instead of trying to play whack-a-mole with the way things are going in our school systems right now. We find one issue, we hit it, and then before you know it, they're popping up somewhere else. We should not put our energy there. Parents should say, you know, if they're not giving me the right curriculum, if they're not making sure they're protecting my child's data, if they're not making sure that I'm aware, I'm being heard, I'm going to take my child and go elsewhere. And guess what? We're choosing the free market, meritocracy. And if they don't get their act together, then we would choose to go away, do something else, and there'll be no children left unless the parents want the children to be taught that particular way. That's called a free market. It's innovation. Let our teachers, our true administrators who care, let them innovate. You'll be amazed what can come out of the system. So that's a long answer to a short question, Christina.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. What strikes me is really interesting about that. So you're sitting in Congress making some education policy, but the focus is on parents and how to empower them and equip them. At Sutherland Institute, we've been working a lot on equipping parents with information about curriculum and what's going on in the classroom so they can be better partners with teachers, right? So this focus on making parents better partners as well. How do those principles influence the work or guide the work that you're doing there in Congress as well?
You know, it's interesting we have to have this conversation. Back when I was being raised in the 60s, this was not even a concern or doubt. Everyone knew that the parents were the first advocates, facilitators for their child. It's their child. Here we are now, decades later, and we're having a conversation whether we should be the advocates for our child or some bureaucrat, some stranger. And we're actually talking about that now. The fact we put together something called the Parents' Bill of Rights. The fact that Congress has to put together a bill called the Parents' Bill of Rights, and we have so many of my Democratic friends who voted against it. Matter of fact, all of them did. I think it's important to recognize that once we together start putting our focus on our children, on everybody else, letting parents be part of this process, there's no one who loves their kids more than their parents. We all know that. And tell you, we're at home, we talk Mama Bear, man, don't get Mama Bear upset when you start messing with their kids. That's the way it should be. It's natural. So we're saying that parents should have a right to know what their kids are being taught. If they're being taught something that's totally against their core values of morale, then if they want to teach that, great, but we want to take my child and put them someplace else. That's called a free market. We want to protect our children. We want to be heard as parents. We want our voices because we care about our kids. This is all Parents' Bill of Rights. We should be heard, not pushed off because they think that they're experts that know better. We should be able to know if there's any violence in our school system. Believe it or not, that's been kept from parents. Because the way that the Department of Education has pushed this process down, the more this information goes out, the more they're asked to respond to that. And therefore, the parents could possibly take the kids out, which is to them a danger. We'd also actually have privacy. Parents should have privacy of their children. Their data should never be pushed out anyplace else. So that's called the Parents' Bill of Rights. This is one of the things we're now dealing with. We want, and I guess I can say it this way, as legislators since my class, 117th, 118th, and 119th, probably the most innovative legislators I've ever seen, where people never thought would be in Congress, never be politicians, business owners, pharmacists, farmers, who come there because they want to make a change. It is up to us as innovators to hear from the innovators. You guys, I want to have a conversation with teachers and administrators who care about our kids. Let us know what it looks like to put them in place. Well, first of all, we get out of the way as on the federal side and let the states and the districts handle their kids the way they think it should be. How about we put together a database that we can do, best practices, what works best across the country. So districts don't have to go through this process over and over again to figure it out. They can find a place where the information is being kept, where success is being seen, and then guess what? Every state, every board can be held accountable to how they are leaning into what's successful across the country. Utah could be at the very top of that, by the way. I want to say this, Utah is very, very unique. We have a culture that's very attractive, and we collaborate like any other state I've ever seen. We care about our kids. So those are things we'll end up doing and continue to move forward as we move forward there, for sure.
Thank you. Congressman, I want to chat with you a bit about higher education and post-secondary training. I know in the past you've talked about your experience going to college, and I've gone to college, and it's been such a blessing in my life. We're here at a university. Many sitting in the audience are pursuing a college degree, but there's been this growing debate and discussion about the value of a four-year degree. How do you address that? How do you view that? Is college worth it? And how can Congress kind of improve
That's
that
a
area?
great question, and I'll say this is why I'm so excited about these times we're in. It's a very good question. It's a question that every student should be asking themselves, and every parent. It's called return on investment. You have to learn in life where you put your time, your investment, you expect a certain return. And if that return is not coming back to what you put in, you need to find something else. We're now having too many colleges that have kids coming out with debt they'll never ever pay off. There's no accountability. They have a degree that means absolutely nothing. They pay $20,000 they pay $100,000 for something, they pay them $20,000 of that when they come out. And they come out hating our country at the same time. That is not the return on investment the taxpayers are paying for. That's why we have the College Reduction Act. We're beginning to show, we're going to have colleges accountable across the board. First of all, it should be a level playing field. Higher ed should have the same standards as a career program, as a technology program. Anything that teaches our kids how to go out and produce should have the same merit agenda. Not one for those who teach kids to go out and take risks and those who don't. But we do that together, then we'll have quite a thing going on. So I think it's very healthy right now. We're putting together things that for the first time, I've been a very strong advocate of choice and disrupting our education system because of what happened to my community. Oh, by the way, can I say this real quickly? You need to understand where my foundation, where I'm starting from. This is important because if you understand my experience, my live experience back in the 60s, you'll see why I have such a passion for what I'm doing now. My dad was a college educator, 40 years. FAMU, my uncle was a college educator at the University of Houston, Purview. There was a time when education was our gateway. There was a time when my community, my first exposure to white Americans was until I was 16 years old. If you guys remember the movie Remember the Titans, that was my experience. We fought a lot that first year and second year. But here's the thing. My experience coming out of that totally black community, segregated, KKK environment in that arena, I was so proud to be a black American, so proud to be an American, and so excited about going out and proving myself. Because that's what our parents was teaching us. Our parents were teaching us, if you want to go out and have a good name, you want to show a good pride for my race, our community, go out and succeed. Work harder than anybody else, study harder than anybody else. You'll never ever call yourself a victim. Never feel sorry for yourself. You fall flat on your face. Guess what good, solid American citizens do? They get back up and they go at it again. Because this is a country of second chances. What happened in that community when I was growing up? This is what I saw, by the way. This is what I viewed firsthand. We led the country in the growth of the middle class from 40s, 50s, and 60s. The black community, because of this commitment we had, led the country in the growth of the middle class. You have not heard that. We led the country in men matriculating from college. You have not heard that. Our goal was, you got through high school, you're gonna go to a college, a black college, where teachers cared about their generation moving forward. And I can list a bunch of them. I lived in the shadows of Florida A&M. We led the country in men committed to marriage. Up to the 1970s, black women had a higher percentage of marriage than white women did. Do you know today, 80% of black women, single women are single by themselves with no man helping them out? That is flipped upside down. In my day, we told men if you wouldn't take care of your family, your kids, your wife, you were not considered a man in our society. And last but not least, we led the country in the percentage of entrepreneurs. When there's a segregated community, guess what you have to do? Become self-sufficient. Everything is within. I saw lawyers, engineers, plumbers, nurses, doctors, and the message from every single one of these adults was, you can make it in this country, and you're an American, you can make it in this country if you just put your shoulders to the wheel and make things happen. Don't feel sorry for yourself, okay? That's where we were then. We're in a totally different environment today. Going from 40% of black business owners, we're now down to 3.8, the lowest of any group in our country. Going for a time when only 20% of black women were single by themselves, we're now 80%. We're creating men that are whiners, weenies, and wimps. And some of them think it's cool. They get on TV and brag about how many kids they have, they're not married. The idea was that the middle class. Anyway, the point I'm making is this. That's the perspective I've come from. I know personally what happens when young people are taught to go out and compete, to think outside the box, to be so confident in who you are that you can literally talk to somebody who disagrees with you, but you believe that you have the ability to just hang in there, be nice, be respectful. You can bring that person along to your side. Let me tell you what's happening on our campus today. The minute an individual thinks they cannot talk somebody into it, they don't believe their way, they pick up a stick and want to hit them with it. Of course, they put a mask on before they do that, because they're cowards. Anybody who puts a mask on and they go intimidates, curse, hit, they're nothing but cowards. Take the mask off and do the same thing, and then we'll see how courageous, how much you really believe in what you believe in, okay? Another long answer to a short question. Sorry.
That's great, thank you. And something you were talking about there at the end too, I mean, learning to disagree civilly, peacefully, sharing ideas. Education is inherently, I do think, becomes a political topic. Lots of times people say, oh, education shouldn't be political. That's one, I guess, ideal of it. But it goes into the political realm very easily. So it can become very contentious. How can we stay away from polarization in education? What do you think the role is of Congress to kind of set an example there to improve that?
Very good question. First of all, Congress is a reflection of we the people. Let's start with that. So how do we change Congress? Let's do what I think we're about to do right now as American people. You see, the three words, we the people, the most powerful three words in the history of mankind, is the concept of unity. It's something that says we have something in common that we will fight for together. We'll talk about it together. We'll figure out an answer. And when that becomes strong enough, all the differences we might have go away. There was a time when things like the flag, being American, sports even, was a place you came together. Remember those days? you can have all kind of disagreements. Boy, you put on that uniform, that jersey, all of a sudden, man, we high five and we see each other. Military is that way. So why am I hopeful now? By the way, I've never been more excited about our future than I am today, just so you know. Just so you know. Because I see something happen in our country over the last few years that's finally allowing us to not feel comfortable about not talking. You're looking at COVID, BLM riots, you look at October 7th, and we're realizing, you know, this is not who we are. This doesn't make, it doesn't matter what side I was sitting on. It doesn't make any sense. My child goes to college and cannot get a job when it's afterwards. It goes back not liking me or anything about what we do. So I see this, the last 4 years has allowed us to feel so uncomfortable that we're now asking each other for answers. We're talking again as a nation. We're finding out what do we have in common. We want safety. We want to be able to dream big, to own a business one day. We want to raise our family the way we want to raise our family with the values we have. So those are the kind of things we're now talking about, which would then allow us to send the kind of people to DC that reflects that. So we have a better chance now than ever before to make our voices heard in DC, to tone down the rhetoric by us making sure we do out here, talk to each other the way we should, be patient, be humble enough to know we don't know everything, like our founders did. In the process of doing that, we'll send people that reflect that to DC, and then our tone will reflect what our districts want us to be able to do.
Great. Before we move to audience questions, I just want to kind of open the floor to you. If there's any final words you want to say on education and how we should be thinking through this, especially in an election year, like you mentioned, all these different policy issues are top of mind. People are thinking through how they want to vote. How should we be thinking about education policy?
I would hope that Americans recognize, like our founders did, Thomas Jefferson said, ignorant and free can never be. At the same time, Marxists Karl Marx said, the first battleground is rewriting of history. Why is the rewriting of history so important to the far left, the Marxists? If we cannot have an appreciation for our past, an understanding of how far we've come, and a vision for our future, we lose who we are. So we need to put at the very forefront of our priorities, helping our kids to think. We should be the smartest nation in the entire world because we're the freest. And yet we're falling behind countries that some of us have never heard about because we're getting away from the core values of our kids come first when it comes to education. Not the institution, not the name on the college, not the people who teach there. It's the product of our kids that are proud of who they are. They're ready to fight for our country because they're patriotic. They want to raise a family that will take their name and pass it on for generations, whatever that legacy might be. And by the way, legacy isn't always money, by the way. It's a good name. It's spiritual base. It's something that they see their kids being happy as they move forward down the generations. It's passing happiness along, and we can only do that by teaching our kids how to think, how to be empathetic, and how to be nice. How to not hide behind a computer, hide behind a mask. That is so cowardly to me. I mean, I came old school, guys. You know, in old days when you had an issue with somebody, you talked about it or you fought it out, but then you were friends. Today, man, these folks, they get bold they go out and beat somebody up because somebody's taking a camera, a picture of them, and they're going to put it on the internet, and they just feel good about it. And the worst is this, to see young men watching women being attacked, abused, and they're taking video to put on the internet. You want to talk about the loss of manhood? You're talking about a whiner, weenie, and wimp? We're seeing too many of these people. They get off and they have no empathy, no understanding that they are the ones who should be protecting our ladies, period. Period. If you don't get that, you've lost everything about being a manhood. I'll tell you what my parents taught me. My dad, well, my mom too. Mom was my friend, Dad was my disciplinarian in my household. He says, if you want to be successful, Burgess, in life, if you want to have a good name, when it's all said and done, when those years come, we realize it's about to come to an end, do this and it'll be a happy life. Learn to love God, country, family, respect women, and authority. Simple, but so deep that many of our kids have no idea what it is. They're going in a totally different direction. Learn to love God, country, family, respect women, and authority. For young ladies, you are the bar. You're the thermostat. If you want to find a good man, if you want to have a good life, somebody committed to you and your kids, find a young man that loves God, country, family, respect women, and authority. If they don't do that, find somebody else, and they will start, man, they will up the ante. They will get their act together when ladies set that bar. So you truly are. I don't see too many ladies in here. All these guys, okay. But anyway, I'm hoping that you guys understand our culture is defined by who you pick to be your mates. It really is. That's all culture. Okay.
Congressman, thank you so much for that. We're going to turn the time over now for some audience questions. So Mike right here has the microphone, and he'll walk it to you.
That's right. So a few quick notes on this. We're starting with student questions, some of which are in our courses here at the university. But if you do have other questions, think about them, particularly on the subject of education. Raise your hand when the time comes, but we're going to start here. Also, when it's time for your question, just introduce yourself with your name, and if you're a student here, what you're studying. We're going to go over here to William.
Hi, so I'm William Betterbite. I'm an undergrad here, and you mentioned briefly that Utah has a lot to offer to the country in terms of education. I just wanted to ask if you could elaborate more on that, what specifically Utah has to offer the country that it's doing really well, and what maybe Utah could improve on as well from other states.
First of all, I'm going to start with where you ended off. Utah is one of the tops, but we can be better. And that's what I love about our culture. We're always trying to figure out how can we be better. What we do is very simple is this. We have a real priority on make sure our kids can produce And I'm gonna go back again to the culture that many parents across this, in Utah, they do. They teach their kids for 18, 19 years to prepare to go out and serve someplace around the world where most people don't want to visit, to vacate. But they know when they come back, they celebrate when they come back, they go and celebrate when they come back because they know they've learned some things. They've learned appreciation, they've learned things like how to deal with anxiety, failure. Those are things that really create a culture that's very, very different. Now, because of that, we have the highest percentage of entrepreneurs than any other state. So we have the kind of educational system that allows our kids to choose and pick, whether it be higher ed, whether it be high-tech career. We have all those options here, and the idea of choice is very important. We're going to continue to get better at that. I think the Educational Choice for Children's Act would help in that area because we're not taking from the districts, from the state, but allowing even more choice without a cap. But that is, in essence, probably the biggest thing we do best. We understand that even if my child is doing okay, there might be a child down the street, there might be a child across the way that doesn't have the same options. So our legislators have put together an option to give choice. What we do best than anything else is our federal representatives understand we have a lane to stay in. And we need to stay in that lane and get out of the state lane. We need to put all this power and information back to the state of Utah and let them do what they have to do with their kids. Now, the workforce side is something else I'm very excited about. We have the culture that's a little different than others. We don't want to export our kids. We want our kids to grow and stay with us here. Many of our parents, like myself, we come here because our kids are here. But because of that, we want to make sure they are capable of generating businesses here and supporting businesses here so they can stay in this area. So I'll say the workforce piece. I'm also in transportation infrastructure. Our goal is to make sure we're keeping down, make sure our transportation allows us to grow where people can be anywhere across the state, way down south, and have the same options and access that we have here. So being risk takers, being innovators, being collaborative, like no other state I've ever seen. I've seen all the states, guys. We collaborate with our state legislators, with our commissioners, with our mayors, like no other state in the union. Because we have the same end game. We want our kids to grow and prosper and be the best in the entire world. So we're going to keep that up. We can get better at it, but I appreciate that question. Thank you.
All right, we're going to come up here.
My name is Jasper Rugemer. Thank you for being here, sir.
Is it Josh?
Jasper.
Jasper, okay.
Yes, sir. So I have a question regarding your Parents' Bill of Rights. You talk about the diversification of education and being able to send kids to a different institution if you don't approve of what they're currently being taught in the curriculum, right? Mm-hmm. So my question is, how do you maintain a kind of oversight and order in terms of quality of education? As you said, education can be seen as a national security issue. So it's important then, if you want to send your kids somewhere else where you send them, there is still a maintenance of a common ground that they are educated, that they do become sophisticated, and that they're able to hopefully make educated decisions even better and take forth leadership. So how do you plan to
I tell you,
enforce that?
The best parameter of success, of quality, is where do the dollars go? Where do the kids go? You see, in the free market, when you're competing, parents are making that choice. They're seeing that my child is actually growing here, it wasn't growing there. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell my friends about this place that my child's growing in. It could be somebody. I have a slightly artistic young grandson, smart as heck. If he was in some other school, public schools, he would fail big time. But where he is right now, he's a genius. The things he can do, but his parents saw that, and they made sure they put him in the right place to prosper. So it is not. This is so important. We do not have experts who can tell us everything about your future children, what's best for them. Parents do that, and institutions who align with those parents' beliefs and thoughts and success, that will dictate it. And I just want you to think, when you have that question, think about every other place that we choose to go to The fast food we might stop on the way to go home. The hotel we stay in, if that hotel has bed bugs, we'll never go back there again, will we? My money will never go there again. Well, if we have people failing, like in the state of California, 75% of black boys, that's bed bugs. Parents should be able to take their kids out and put them someplace else, you see? So that would be the parameter. I would say, let the parents, let them, and the teachers that we bring to this process, let them be part of this answer.
What about the Owens?
That's on the state level. And here's the thing, that should be on the state level, because people will hold those state officials accountable if they're not doing their job, state boards. Let me tell you what we can do. That central database I talked about, if that database is available and you can see the best practices, and guess what, when I go to vote and I realize that my folks here are not tying in, my people here are not tying in to the best practices, I'm not going to vote for that person, okay? That database, that concept came about, by the way, back when we were having these security issues. I had a friend of mine, one of my colleagues in California, said, let's put together, we'll use the COVID funds that are not being used, and put together a database of what, and this goes directly past the state, direct to districts. They can ask for it. What's the best place to keep their kids safe? Is it software infrastructure? Is it hardware infrastructure? Is it police that have experience to come in? They can decide upon that, and this database allows them to see what's out there. So security, education, we should handle what's successful when it comes down to implementation of policies that should be on a state level. Let's get the federal government out of it. We've proven since 1979, Department of Education came aboard, we have no clue. Or we do have a clue, and we're trying to get kids not. That's the only way I can see it. We're failing to a level that I just can't see it not being on purpose. Really, be honest with you. So, right here, front row hand. Good seeing you. Good seeing you, for sure.
Congressman, my name is Dennis Tenney. Thank you for what you're doing. My question has to do more with the issue of federalism. You just made the comment that the Department of Education was established in 1979. Prior to that time, and historically, education has been a state and a local issue. It seems like my question is, what is your position with respect to federalism? Today in Utah, nearly 40% of the state budget comes from federal monies. Federalism is almost an anachronism. What are you doing, or is there any serious effort to ask the questions, is this a state or local issue rather than a federal issue, and how do we devolve that authority and responsibility back to local municipalities and school boards where education really belongs?
That's what I love about the last three terms, or last two terms. We're getting back to asking ourselves that question. On the Education and Workforce Committee, I'm running for the chairmanship of Education Workforce. We're always, every bill we have, is this a federal or state? I'm talking about state legislators to make sure that we're staying in our lane. This has been a conversation we've not had before now. When education becomes a priority from our conference, then we have to figure out what has been working and what's not been working. When we have federal sticking their nose in everything we do here in the state, they're literally tying their mandates to the fundings coming in. Why is we having this conversation on the school level, or whether a girl, a boy should compete against girls? It's not here in Utah. It's because there's funds tied into DC. Bureaucrats there have made a decision, they're going to push it down. We need to decouple that. And we'll do everything we can to make sure these funds are being wasted on the bureaucracy that we sent to the state to do some remarkable good things with. So we're going to be very innovative, and I'll say this is where any teachers, administrators here listening to this, our goal is to be innovative legislators, like nothing you've ever seen before. We're thinking totally outside the box. Did I talk about Earl Mann before? Did I make that point? Earl Mann, father of education. Did I say that? I did say that.
No, not here.
Okay, good. Earl Mann, father of education, died 20 years before Alexander Bell said, "Hello, Watson." Okay? What's happened to that technology of Hello, Watson? I can literally today go out in the woods somewhere to see the Milky Way, no service other than the satellite that now I'm going to have access to. You know how powerful that's going to be for a rural community? Now that's what we've done with innovation because the free market took over. Those things that I sold, I used to sell BlackBerry. Many guys have no idea what a BlackBerry is. Some of you do, okay. They missed the mark. They didn't innovate. They went out of business, and guess who took over? We have not innovated in education since Earl Mann. We're doing exactly the same thing as in those days. We still have the same conversations. Parents are concerned, they want their morality taught in school. Earl Mann said no. Parents, religious people, parents are saying, I want to make sure we keep the power here in this local area. So my point is this, innovation is it, my friends. Let's bring innovation to this particular arena, and you'll be amazed at the brain width that we'll have for our kids. Our kids will be #1 in the country, in the world, like they should have been all along. Because we'll unleash the idea of every child has a talent, has an interest, and has a dream. Let them focus on where that is, and let's just encourage them. And the things we'll be able to accomplish over the next coming years will be really good. Next 2 to 4 years, I think we can make those changes. Good question.
Congressman Owens, what you've been saying here is so profound, so important to our future of our country. My name is Don Savage. I turned 70 last month. My wife and I remarried, or a second marriage 8 years ago. She had 6 adult children. I had 3 adult children. She has 12 grandchildren. I have 12 grandchildren. We have 24 grandchildren, 4 in college and the rest younger. I wrote down 3 things. I just want to give you some quick feedback, my observations of my concerns. Number 1, our grandchildren don't know cursive. They can't even sign their name on a document. They can't read a letter their grandfather wrote them or a document from history. It is, to me, the #1 destructive, whatever reason that happened, is so destructive to this next generation, to be able to read an original document or to sign their name. Number 2 is financial management, how to budget, how to set aside 10% for themselves, how to balance a checkbook, what the meaning of credit and how that affects them is so concerning, and they don't seem to know it very well. And the last, you've mentioned a few times, is the history of our country, the significance of our founding fathers, what we were based on. The United States of America, I believe only 4% of the world live under the wonderful laws of the United States of America. 300 to 400 million people out of 8 billion people. We are so fortunate to have the freedoms, the government, the protections we have. I don't think we appreciate, our grandchildren and children don't appreciate how significant and what we're entrusted. We're entrusted to share that with others, to be influence on other countries, other laws, so that they can be like us if we fulfill what our founding fathers envisioned us to become.
Yeah.
So thank you for your articulation, the clarity of everything you've said. I wish every citizen of the United States could hear what you've said the first 15 minutes. Every citizen of Utah could hear what you said is so significant to the future of our country. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Let me just say this. And I keep going back to the Jasper's question, Jasper. It's such an important question, it really is, because we want to make sure that the standards are being met. Competition allows that not only be met, but superseded, okay? To your point, we have kids that are literally financially illiterate. They finish college and have no idea how to balance what return on investment looks like. There's something, how many guys have heard I met a guy a couple years ago, his name Nick Saban. Anybody knows who Nick Saban is? I always got to feel good when I say I know the name Nick Saban. For those who don't know him, he's one of the all-time best coaches in the history of mankind, in Alabama. He came to talk about something else, and this is to the point of workforce, education. He says, we are able to identify a young man in the 7th grade. By the time he gets to the 11th grade, we can offer him a scholarship. Now, how does that happen? Well, it happens because there's this handshake. This young man knows exactly what the standards are, what his expectations are, He also knows the benefits. He cannot wait to get out. Whatever his dream is, Alabama is it. So he wants to know how to get there. Alabama has identified a person that has potential. He wants to make sure that he understands what the parameters are, what is it that they're looking for. And if they both commit to that process, 11th grade, they can have that handshake, and they both win. We need to be giving our kids second, third grade, the tools that they can make that mix when they want to get to the workforce. And it might not be a 4 or 6 year college, by the way. I ran into a young man who, Davidson, finished up in welding, very good, top of his class. Met him again at 22, great job, just bought his first home, had their first child. Think about that, and not in debt. That's a choice he made because he decided this is his niche, this is his handshake. We should all have that same opportunity. Some of it might, I have my son-in-law is an ER doctor. He wasn't gonna do that at 22. He had to go through a process, a long process, but for him it was worth it because that was his passion. So we have to, first of all, break the mold of waiting until kids get to 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade before they figure out what they want to do in life. Or go to college and find themselves. I mean, that's another one. Go 4 years, find yourself, and you'll figure it out. We can change that by the way we see our workforce early in life. Our workforce, and when our little kids, when they get together, this is, again, this is state, this is district that'll be driving this, but they know what it is to share at a very young age. They know what it is to be nice to each other, to not be mean and bullies early, so that habit grows so they don't have to be retrained or go to prison to figure it all out. So we have to look at workforce quite differently, innovatively, outside the box, and look at our education differently. And I'll tell you guys, I've never been more excited about being alive at a time when we can do that, because it's not just the legislative body, it's we the people that's finally demanding that something is changing. And when we get to that point, there's nothing to stop us. So,
I think we have time for one more brief question before we wrap up. So,
Representative Owens.
Here, and then here also. Okay.
Oh.
All right. Representative Owens, thank you very much for coming. My name is Alex. I am an undergrad here at the University of Utah. And I've been following closely your social media interaction, mostly on the page of X. I have noticed that you have very large disagreements with critical race theory and DEI. I think that there is a bit of a discrepancy with your logic as the sense of you wanting the states to control most of the things, but then also wanting to put a ban on DEI and critical race theory, which have been concepts that have been very important. But we, as individuals, are not able to decide if we want DEI or critical race theory to be implemented, as things have been shown, that they actually do work. And in other words, my question is, I would like you to define DEI and critical race theory, and I would like you to tell us what is your ideas based on, and if there's any proof, any evidence, or anything that you base your ideas in, or if this is something that is just more or less kind of like what the trend is with the Republicans, or is this based on something?
Okay. How old are you, by the way?
I am 20 years old.
20? Okay. I'm 70. When I was 20, I was dealing with the same concept of DEI. I was being judged from the outside to the inside. I was the third black to go to the University of Miami. Why? Because blacks weren't thought to be very intelligent because of our skin color. I graduated in biology and chemistry, which was totally weird to many people. Why? Because I'm black, and we're not supposed to be that intelligent. I've seen this movie before, is my point. And I'm hoping that you keep your mind open to people like myself who say at the minute we go back to judging each other based on our skin color, our religion, anything else other than character, merit, we're heading down a very devious and dark path. I worked so many years to come out of that process. I'm never going back. For some of the older people here, you remember the movie, Guess Who Comes to Dinner? I see a few heads, just a handful. Guess Who Comes to Dinner came out when I was a kid. It was a big deal in the 60s, a big, big deal. It was only a 2-hour movie, but yet we have today, people still remember that. Why? Because we had Sidney Poitier as a black doctor showing up with his white fiancée to talk to her parents around a dinner table about this relationship. A 2-hour movie that we still talk about today. Why? Because in those days, interracial dating, interracial relationships was not going to happen. Let me tell you my family today. 6 kids. They represent Black, white, Hispanic, American Indian, and Trinidadian. We call each other family. My grandkids call each other cousins because they can care less about what the Marxists have done to divide us. DEI is a Marxist ideology, starting back in the 30s. I've done my homework on this. It's all about divisiveness. It's not of us talking together, but what we can do to divide us. CRT, if they were so confident about this, why hide it? Why change it? If you're so confident this works, why did you teach the teachers to teach the teachers to teach the kids, and we have to finally figure out that this is going on? I would say this, if you want, if the institution wants to teach DEI, that is fine. You just won't have the federal funding. Let the free market, if the free market really says that's the way to go, I would bet you not too many people are going to put their kids in a school like that. That's what my guess is. Let's teach meritocracy. Let's teach that based on content and character, not skin color, is really the American way. By the way, we were doing that in a big, big time until this whole craziness of DI came in. I don't know if you noticed this, but a lot of the stuff, corporations that bought onto it because they're losing money, they're getting away from it. Because American people have no tolerance with racism, with judging people. We just don't have the tolerance for it. So I would say this, continue to do your work, continue to have this. I love the fact you asked that question, I really do. I respect courage, I really do. I respect the fact that I might not be on the same page, but yet you still would like to sit up and talk about it. That's how our country moves forward. So hold on to that. Hold on to that. It's special. In the process, we both learn to kind of have a better conversation, and we'll come to the right places in the country to do that. Okay? So I hope I answered that. We're gonna do a lot better explaining what it is, and hopefully you'll see the benefits of going the American way instead. Okay? Yes.
Let me run the microphone to you. And this will be our final question.
Congressman Owens, it's a pleasure. My name is Jackson. I'm a freshman at the U, and through the Hinckley Institute, I'm an ambassador for the Andrew Goodman Foundation. So I'm excited to get involved in politics for sure. And I just wanted to add to a comment that you had a while back. I'm from California originally. Went to school in California, went to high school there. Wasn't as good as high school up here, I will say. They didn't teach pride in America. They didn't really teach or educate as well as they do up here. I just wanted to add that real quick. But I did have a question. Do you think social media is adding to the partisanship in America?
That's a very good question, because social media, it is what it is. It's here. It is free speech. The problem with social media is a couple things. And there's some upside. There's some upside to it also, because we now are no longer, there's no longer any monopoly on voices, on news. I can go to there and I can find anything I want to, anything I'm drawn to. The downside, unless we teach differently in our school system, is that we're raising bullies. We're raising people who really feel very comfortable of saying and doing anything as long as nobody knows who they are. And so when you're behind a screen, you will bully people like crazy because it makes you feel good. Particularly if you have a low self-esteem in any way, you now feel better about yourself. You can make people feel miserable because you have that power. So the upside of social media is free speech. We have to make sure that we are controlling things like sexual content, making sure that our kids are not being attacked, not being addicted. Those are things that we can have some control of. And we also need to make sure that we don't have monopolies where they can literally control our speech. The great thing about the free market without monopolies, if they control here and that one doesn't, guess where everybody's gonna go? That's why I'm so thankful. I mean, I look at miracles all the time, guys. I think it was a miracle, whether you like President Trump or not, but somebody to turn a 0.5 millimeter of an inch one way at the right time, when a bullet's coming at his head, that is called a miracle. I want you guys to remember that. I think Elon Musk decided to take over X, Twitter, and make an X. but now there's a free market. There's places no longer can we be canceled just because we believe in certain things. That is a miracle. I'll say this, a real miracle. I've really not listened a whole lot to Bobby Kennedy, a lot. I just heard recently what his thoughts are. Here's a man who's 70 years old. He says that I only have a few more years to really make a difference. You know what his focus is? The health of our kids. Making sure that the mental illness that we're now dealing with is not being pushed through the foods that we now have. I have gained so much respect for Bobby Kennedy because he has the courage to stand for what he believes in. Whether everybody agrees with everything or not, and I don't agree with most things he agrees with, by the way, but he has something that puts America first, Americans first, kids first. As long as we have adults who do that, we will disagree on a lot of different things. But we'll come together in those areas. We know our kids will benefit from this, our kids being hurt by this, and we will get away ASAP from anything that hurts them, and we'll call out those who are hurting them. We'll call them out and we'll make them accountable. And that's what we have to get done again. So, so to your point, first of all, thanks for appreciating the education you're getting here. Our kids take it for granted many times. Our goal is to make sure that in California, and I just came to California just last week, that those kids have those same opportunities. They should have the right to dream big, to overcome obstacles, to think and move forward. It should not be a state issue in that area to stop that process. So I think, let me just kind of wrap up.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. I guess I can say this. I'm a product of my mom and dad generation. The greatest generation, I think, in the history of mankind. You know, I think about a dad who came back from war, and he said the greatest decision he ever made was volunteering, because that volunteer process allowed him to get a VA loan, the GI Bill, so that even though in Texas, where he grew up, where he came back from war, because of Jim Crow laws, he could not get a postgraduate degree. I ran across his box of letters after he passed away. He never brought the box of letters out. He never complained about it. He never told me how bad things were. Because they stopped him there, that generation said this: you say no, I'll show you how I'm going to make it happen anyway. He kept going until he got to Ohio State, where he got his PhD in agronomy. His brother got his PhD in economics. That decision allowed him to go out and build his dreams like no other one. 5 years old, my friends, segregated community, segregated Tallahassee down south. I was in Liberia, Africa, because my dad has a research project in Liberia, Africa. 16 years old, segregated community. I was able, my parents got this pop-up tent, 5 kids in a white Chevy station wagon. Nobody had seat belts. We didn't have AC. We pulled that pop-up tent from Tallahassee, Florida to California, to Canada, back to North and South Dakota for 2 months, and hit every single national park there was. You talk about a moment that made me proud of America. That for the first time, growing up down south, I had a chance to see that there were good people across this country that weren't my color. So it changed the way I viewed our country forever. But the fact I had parents together that worked through their issues, that together made sure their kids were getting the best of opportunities. Every child deserves that opportunity. We should not be picking and choosing kids who can't do that because of whatever. This is America. And by the way, when we decide not to support our kids across the country, it will come back on you at some point. Yes, we live in Utah. But when you're voting for values of our country with the rest of the country, like California, sorry. Our kids are going to be trouble as they grow up. We have to make sure Utah values is what we're exporting, not California values that we're importing. And I tell you, we have a chance, my friends. Utah, I think we're very special in so many ways. Let's continue to talk. Let's continue to collaborate. When we disagree, that's okay. Let's do it respectfully. When we agree, let's get on board and just really work to make it happen. We do that, we will show the rest of the country why we're the happiest state in the country. By the way, do you guys know that we're the happiest? I mean, I go through a lot of stuff. We're the number one growing. I go through a list of them. But the one thing that kind of got my attention, we're the happiest state in the union. And people come here and they say, yeah, it's kind of weird. It shouldn't be weird. So let's just keep that up. And my last thought for the students here, do your best to be that safe space for people who might not agree with you. I have to be the safe space for my family. My brothers and sisters they're not Republicans, they're Democrats. So I have to be that thermostat. When things start to get a little heated, I'm the one that says, okay guys, let's talk about something else. Let's do something else. You have to be that person so that you can continue that relationship, and a relationship gets people to say, oh, you know what, maybe he has some good ideas. They agree with a lot more now than they did 10 years ago, 15 years ago, because we still have a great relationship. We can have fun together, and they kind of depend on me to lower the temperature when time comes, okay? So just keep it up, guys, and I want to thank this institution for everything you guys are doing here. Sutherland, thank you.
Thank you.
I look forward to, and by the way, we get a lot of information of what's happening in Utah. What are some of the thought processes from Sutherland? So I want to thank them for staying ahead of the curve with this, being a leader in this environment. And let's just always continue to grow, guys, okay? That's the bottom line.
Congressman Owen, thank you so much for your time. You're a busy man. We appreciate your insights. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you to all who joined us today. If you're interested, there will be pizza for you on the way out. If you're one of our students in either forum series or campaign management, be sure to sign in right outside this door as you exit as well.
The first time we met was at regular council. And